Does everybody know who Phil Demers is? Most people. I had him on a while back. I was covering the lawsuit. But we're gonna go over this now. Look at that number; it's going up 5,755 live on Rumble, and there will be more people. All right, Phil, I'm getting ready to bring you in. 3, 2, 1. Sir, how goes the battle? Hold on, I can't hear you. Let me. Is the unmute mic? Okay, try it now. No. Is it my end? No, hold on. Phil, I think, no, hold on. Unmute. Unmute mic. Not banned from studio. I don't think, okay, hold on. I'm clicking unmute mic. Can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute themselves. Come out and come back in. You know, I'm going to kick him. Okay. Device is not connected. I'm going to kick from the studio. Not banned from studio, kick from studio. He will be removed from the studio if you want to prevent this person from rejoining, ban them instead. I'm going to kick guest and when he comes back in. Oh, good. And everyone's trickling in here anyhow. Count ticker expose, says Platitudes. Let's Rumble, says Daisy. Tobias Funk, says Greg today. And I don't know who that is. Rumble is greater than YouTube, says Jacob Castro. Justin Trudeau's brother, it looks like. I'll give you the rundown of Phil Demers for anybody who might not know. You know what? He's back in here. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. I can hear something now.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay. I don't. It's like the one. This is like the second time where I wasn't able to do the. No, the last time the audio worked and then it stopped working. But I don't have problems that often on StreamYard. I want to make sure there's not too much echo because I don't hear any echo. Let's see something. Phil, who 30,000 foot overview. Who are you?
Well, for the American listeners, I'm the equivalent of someone who worked at a place similar to SeaWorld, but in Canada, well known to all of us, most of us, a place called Marineland. And for about 12 years, I was, I was the guy jumping off the orcas and prancing around with the sea lions and swim with the dolphins, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, there's a lot more to those. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that a few people like to talk about. I, however, one day elected to speak very much and thoroughly about it, and much to Marineland and much of the industry's chagrin. And so Marineland elected to sue me for $1.5 million in February of 2013 for plotting to steal Smooshy the Walrus, which happens to be an animal that imprinted on me during my time at Marineland, which I just want to talk about that because it's an anomalous thing. It was the relationship that I shared with this walrus that doesn't exist sort of anywhere else. I mean, on occasion you hear of birds that imprint on people and you see them sort of riding their boats and they got like a flock of geese behind them. But this is a very rare thing that happened between Smooshy and I. And so this walrus believed I was her mother. This, of course, in about 2008, 2009, turned into a fluff piece, and it was excited and celebrated. But, as things got ugly and it was my time to quit Marineland, all of it turned into a more ominous story.
Well, I'm trying to pull up one article because, your bottom line, the whistleblower who outed some arguable, alleged animal mistreatment at Marineland. But you became famous even before that because you were on the show is called, oh, geez. Phil, what was the show that you were on in Canada?
Are you talking about the reality TV show that I was on? Yeah, it was called Wipeout. So, for those, if you're not familiar with the name, maybe it's the big red balls, the whole jumping on the big red balls thing. That usually triggers a memory for people. But yeah, I was on the Canadian version of that. And largely that's what started the craziness of my journey because I'd actually gone there with the intention, of course, of winning. But with the thought that if I could win that money, it would secure me at least for a moment some a buffer, if you will, to make the transition from I'm an employee of Marineland to very much an ex-employee.
It was a not a claim to fame, but you made it onto Wipeout. Everyone there was the American version of Wipeout. Jim Henson was the host, and it's a great show. I would love to have ever gone on it myself. But you and your story, because everybody has an amazing story, which they told, was that Smooshy the Walrus imprinted on you as you became her trainer, grew what had never been seen before as not an attraction, but a relationship between a flipping walrus and a human. You ultimately blew the whistle on the mistreatment. What was the alleged mistreatment or the improper treatment, alleged abuse going on at Marineland as relates to walruses, which I'm sure you're going to confirm are very much higher order mammals, intelligent animals that shouldn't be in certain living conditions. What were those conditions that you blew the whistle on?
Well, 10 years removed, I can speak at great length of all of the issues, but the ones that largely caused me to quit was there was an indifference from the owner over a period of time when a water disinfection unit broke, and because Marineland was closed over the course of the winter, so the public will not be able to have seen the animal.
Uh-oh. The government has taken him. Hold on. And I can feel Phil sweating from the other end. Everybody, while he comes back in, do I want to pull up the, I don't know if I want to show, hold on. I'll show this. While we're waiting for Phil, he's going to come back in a second. Device not connected. Do I kick him again? I'm going to kick him from the studio and he'll come back in. But while he does that, let me just get Wipeout. Here we go. Episode 1, the full. Oh, that's the full episode. No, this might be the trailer. No, it's the full episode. Phil was on Wipeout, and they put together those stories, and it was great. Let's just see if he's back here. He looks nervous. Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm so apologetic, but I don't understand technology so well, and at my end, I think someone called me, and then that's
Phil, don't worry. I mean, everyone in the chat here knows that I've been starting off streams for the last. I haven't done it in about a week and a half. Audio, video problems.
Okay, well, you understand my anxiety levels are like yours when we get going. So hold it.
That's why I started wearing black shirts so that nobody can see me sweating when stuff goes on. But I'm glistening.
I'm gonna tell you.
So, okay, the water treatment as Marineland closes for the off season.
So Marineland closed for the off season. So there was it was a breakdown of the water disinfection unit, and I'll go into some detail because what we had was an ozone generator. And when you use ozone, the gas, you're familiar with ozone. In conjunction with chlorine, it mitigates chlorine's use, so you don't actually have to use a lot of it. Well, the ozone generator broke, so suddenly we're not generating any ozone, so the water goes afoul, it goes green, algae, everything else. So the resolve is just put a lot of chlorine in it. Mm-hmm. Well, that over a period of 6 months or nearing 6 months, and in varying degrees of its application, had a crazy effect on, as you can imagine, the water-dwelling animals. So be it the dolphins, they had skin flaking off of them. I mean, it was something awful to see. The sea lions, I had one sea lion, the damage to his eye was such that he barked at me while I was trying to force him back into the water because we'd actually removed him for a long period of time, and that turned out to have a adverse health effects. So we elected to put him back in the water, but because he didn't want to, and I was trying to actually physically push him, he barked, and the lens of his eyeball flew out of his eye because that's how much damage and corrosion, if you will, that the eye had suffered. So we had sea lions going blind. They had patches of fur coming off. Smoochie had a chemical burn on her rear flippers. One of the videos on YouTube, Twitter, or wherever else it is. In fact, it's in the documentary Walrus and the Whistleblower. Everybody, you see Smoochie walking towards me in the snow because I used to take her outside very often. Because if people don't know, she would follow me absolutely anywhere, and that was a rule that was just something that was unbreakable, absolutely anywhere. So I would very often take her out in the snow, and to try to give her some reprieve from what was an awful freaking existence. But nonetheless, she had a pretty awful chemical burn. You could see her limp in that video. But we had one sea lion ultimately died. It was really awful. And so because we were starting to prepare to open the park, and it was like 2 weeks in advance of it, and really the complacency of the owner was such that the water was still green. The animals were still just. Look, I've got to work with animals. They've got to be healthy. I'm not trying to be like a cold person, but you know what I mean? These are the tools of my trade as well. I care about the animals, but this is also something like if you want me to produce a show, I can't have compromised animals. How are we going to make sense of this? So I just hit the urgency button 2 weeks before the park was to open. And ultimately, I just resolved to quit. I quit. But of course, it should be said that I'd made the resolve with Marineland that I can come back at any time to see Smooshy because, based on the nature of our relationship, she needed me to be there, both for mental health and her physical health, in fact, too. So we made that decision, or that
agreement,
that agreement, if you will. But ultimately, as the story as it goes, and I'll cut it short. But they don't make good on that, and that's when things changed for me very quickly.
Okay, so you initially quit. You didn't go to the media. You have this agreement, and then they don't respect it. You see what you don't like seeing. When do you ultimately go to the media, and then when do they ultimately? Some will call it reprisals, but when do they sue you?
Okay, So the media had been contacting me after I'd quit. And I should mention, while I was still working there, I was getting contacted by people who had recently quit as they were being contacted by media. So there was some interest in for some reason, ex-employees. But of course, there's a lot of interest in my having quit because of the fact that we had been in the media some years before as a big fluff piece. So some people were like, "Hey, the Walrus guy quit. What's going on? What's going on?" And I wanted nothing to do with speaking to the media, frankly. It wasn't until Marina left me no choice. I revisited one time. They tried to keep me out of the park. I got in. I saw Smooshy. She was in a great deal of danger, and had that meeting had I not seen her there, she'd be dead today. I can assure you that. Maybe within weeks, days even of when I saw her. And, the vet apologized and said, "Sorry, we couldn't contact you." So it was like a whole dramatic scene. But that's when I ultimately said to the press, "Okay, forget about it. Put my name, my face, everything. Let's go." And I could just hear the machines in the back going, "Let's go, let's go." And, the print machine went. And back then, the Toronto Star, if you will, they're the ones who ultimately broke the story. They at least had a really powerful grip on what I would have called like credible media back then. And so they were the right place to go back in, let's say, 2012. Frankly, I wouldn't know how else to break a story like that, but the magnitude of it was pretty powerful.
And so you go public. They run articles on it. How long from the time you publicly blew the whistle to the time they sued you?
So the stalking starts first. So the owner of a very old, stubborn, and quite frankly dangerous man, and he should be regarded as a credible threat, especially being that we'd learned sometime later that he was suffering from cancer. So sometimes I would think to myself in retrospect, had he had the opportunity, I wonder how ugly this could have gotten. But he did a lot of driving up and down this street, going very slowly. The police set up some surveillance cameras, and they caught him a dozen times, but the community was always very soft on John. And I don't want to disparage him. Frankly, I thought he was a very fascinating man, but nonetheless, they started with that little bit of a campaign. They sent some PIs up and down. They would catch me in the middle of the street trying to leave for work at 7 a.m. So the campaign started fairly immediately. They send the police to my house very often, in fact. But the lawsuit dropped in February. So if the very first story came out in August, I think it was August 10th, don't quote the date, but certainly the month, then be it, what is that, 5 months later,
Yeah.
whatever February rolls around is when I get the lawsuit. And it's important to note that they did not sue me in defamation, and you might understand why better than me, but there was a reason that I found it peculiar. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I have chosen defamation?
Well, because truth is the ultimate defense on the one hand. And based on the allegations, I presume it would open the door to discovery based on the nature of that accusation. What did they sue you for?
Well, it was basically business interference and intimidation, but the allegations stemmed from just plotting. It was basically I had this large plot to steal a walrus, and I ultimately sent hundreds of people who broke into the park to go make an attempt to steal her. But of course, and some of this did happen. I mean, there were a lot of crazy, wild, and pretty awesome animal rights activists that stormed the last dolphin show on the very last day of Marineland's operating season. I wasn't there.
Well, Phil, I mean, come on.
There.
They're throwing soup on Van Gogh paintings, and they're of course for an actual living animal. That's the only reason I can imagine. If it's tortious interference with business contracts, I mean, okay, you're interfering with their ability to do business. Even with tortious interference, though, it presumes an underlying tort. I don't know. The underlying tort might have been breach of confidentiality. I don't know, but defamation. Truth is the ultimate defense, at least outside of Quebec. Even in Quebec, even if it is true, it can still be defamation, but that's Quebec. Okay, so they sue you. This is 2013. And man, I mean, it's been we can go over, but it was a big, long, tedious lawsuit. It lasted nearly a decade. I mean, you made it very public. You got onto Rogan. You did the rounds in the media. You brought the attention you wanted to this. Everybody, I met Phil online a while back. Then we met in person while the litigation was going on, and we just met up again recently in Florida. And I said, "You look like a different human." And this was before I knew that the lawsuit had been settled. Explain to people out there who have never been sued. I've talked about it at length, but explain to them what it feels like, what goes into getting sued, dealing with the stress, the costs indefinitely, and the relief, and then tell us what happened with the settlement, and there's more there. But what does it feel like? What goes on with nearly 10 years of active litigation?
Well, first off, I should mention I don't know that I can entirely celebrate any relief yet, because it isn't quite done. Where there's still some complications, but it will have lasted by the time those walruses are moved, because we ultimately had a settlement, and they are to move those walruses by my birthday, March 21. That'll be a month in excess of a decade, so it will have been a full decade plus of litigation. But here's what it feels like. I learned I was being sued in the media, so I never actually got served until I think I learned on the Friday afternoon. And I think I got served maybe the Monday or Tuesday. So the Friday, it's, you're getting called by the media, and they know more about, I haven't even been able to read the statement of claim. I haven't even the slightest clue. They're wanting to ask me questions, but frankly, they don't really want to ask me questions. They want to make a couple of very quick attempts via a phone call with one ring, a hang up an email, and then they just go straight to publish and said Phil wasn't available at time of publication for his blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't know if that was the perfect strategy courtesy of Marineland, but, I learned in the media, I thought, front pages of my face before I'd even known the context of the lawsuit. But there's a great deal of panic, and I mean, frankly, I'm not a rich man. I understand litigation to be very expensive, so there's always the concern of, well, what's this going to cost me? But there's, initially, and especially for me, because I don't know what drove me and managed. I don't know how we're having this conversation today, because if I have to do this again, I don't know that I'd be brazen enough or naive enough, let's say, because I just assumed, because I'd been telling the truth, and that I couldn't understand that I'd done anything illegal, that I'd have some hope in this, and that it wouldn't ultimately cost much, and that it would take not very much time. But so I just want to get to the Monday when I actually get served. So when I get served and I get to read the context of the claim, it's literally in thin air. It's a fabrication out of left field. I mean, frankly, I'm half tempted to ask Marineland's lawyer to write my book, because it'll be even more fascinating than I could ever write it, because I mean, this thing was a piece of art, frankly. So there was a level of relief, but again, that was based on my being naive that this wasn't still going to be a very complicated matter. So, and I'm just going to keep ranting until you tell me enough's enough, but I'll speak of the various sort of motions and what becomes of a lawsuit. So, you're naive to think, okay, well, I've got truth, and I've got a great lawyer. He's saying all the right words, and the judge is going to probably get so angry at Marineland that this can't possibly last long. And then you learn what the function of the courts are, and basically the courts are there to this is just my opinion after 10 years of being embroiled in it, but they're there to dissuade you from using them. They're there through the entirety to try to force a resolution between the parties, no matter how unfair or absurd everything is. And so here I'd be going to these various motions costing me, between $12,000 and $14,000. I would win them, but then I would win. I mean, one time I won like $4,000 or $2,000. I mean, I never got my costs covered. It was always on a partial indemnity, which is a big win, evidently. But every time I won, I lost. And every time I'd think I'd be getting anywhere, it'd be another 6 months to a year before the next thing would be heard. And when we talk about motions, we're talking about some of the most infantile, little, slightest detail, anything to just be able to be put in front of a judge. So,
I can clarify some. I remember some. There were motions, what we call motions for particulars. Like they say, we need some details on your defense. I remember there was a refusal to submit to deposition because you wanted one witness in particular.
Yeah,
the guy didn't want to submit, so you got to go to court. Motion to compel. He says, no, take this person, not this person. Like, no, we want this person. Then you got, motions for costs, things like that. So endless motions. Every day at court is $2,000. Just that's the way it is. So if I may ask, and feel free not to answer, but the aggregate money pissed into thin air, how much did this cost you?
$250,000 on my file, but it should be noted that I tried to pay for 2 other people's files, and theirs cost between the 2 of them about $250,000. So all said, it's $500,000 of net out the door cash. And then again, we're still accruing some. I mean, I got a bill today. It was only $400, but brilliantly, that isn't only. That's when I can say, whew, okay, I don't have to because I'll tell you something. It's a thing that I feel as though when Marineland married us, and that's what I felt like they married us, is they knew how much I hate asking for help. And that's been the torture in all this, is that I had to be, I had to reveal a level of vulnerability. And frankly, I just had to reveal myself, because you're vulnerable in that position anyways, right? But I had to display myself, in ways that, you want to kind of protect in life. And so I don't like asking for help. So it's always been tough. So I feel as though Marineland really did find ways to punish me and to make me do very uncomfortable things.
Well, you gotta ask the public for crowdfunding for a defense in a lawsuit that you have no business being in. Well, let's get to the end of it. Actually, I mean, I remember a lot of the procedural stuff, just endless. They're fighting to not get a trial date. Did you ever get a trial date before the settlement? And you had the upcoming trial, and that's what was sort of the.
No, we had a pre-trial, we had a trial date. I believe it was October 3rd, and now that pre-trial happened about a year ago today. So it was taking a long time to get there, but. Everything I have to mention, over a decade of being in a lawsuit, everything that you think is a really long time away, it eventually comes to pass and you move on to the next one. So I've become very patient in ways where it's like, oh, there's a procedural thing in 8 months. It's just like, okay, where other people are like, rah! I'm just like, dudes,
it's the hurry up and wait part of court is just terrible.
That's the dreadful part, frankly. That's the part that sort of guts people like me, especially. I'm a high energy guy, and I want resolution immediately. And so, this has been it's been arduous in that it's against my nature. I'm a fighter. I'm a drop the buckets fast. I'm not saying this in a good way. I'm just saying I'm a very protective person, be it of truth, be it of beings, whatever it is. I'm that person. And so for me, the entirety of this thing has been a state of fight, and some flight, but it's been constant. When you say Phil, I haven't seen you long, you look good. So I lost a lot of weight, right? I mean, I'm a really small guy now. I'd lost, I'll say I probably lost nearly 40 pounds in this process. I'm not complaining about that. Stress is a hell of a diet, but it's taken a toll on me. And here, a decade in, I'm only now learning some of the effects it's probably had on it, be it my memory, be it my a lot of things.
Well, so I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in a decade. The owner dies, someone takes over the to continue the suit. How did it settle? What were the terms of the settlement? And then explain how you got shafted, allegedly, potentially, on the settlement, and what you're planning on doing next.
So it starts off with them proposing a net walkaway, and of course we don't even respond. And then I'm informed that they've filed a notice of discontinuance, and they've dropped the lawsuit against me. And so now my lawyer says, okay, well, now you get to go for a costs motion. Now I had a counterclaim, but frankly, the only thing I'd be suing for were my legal costs, which were out the door. So I'd be looking at about $250,000. And so my lawyer said, well, if we go for a cost motion, and this is a decade of abuse of a process, you should walk away with certainly six figures, and on the north side of 200, let's say. Or Phil, if there's anything you'd like by way of settlement. Now, I should mention that we actually went to a settlement conference, which was a big waste of time. But back in 2019, we were pretty close. At least we were close enough on moving the Walruses. This time they met my terms, if you will, and I ultimately elected to just make good with my promise to Smooshy. And just to back things up very quickly, when I was on that reality TV show, I was only on by virtue of being the Walrus mom. Otherwise, I have no business being there. Now I win. It was $50,000. You can't convince me that that's my money. It's just one of those things you sit on a rainy day for the especially the person that helped you get it. And this is Smooshy. So to me, that I could not imagine having walked away and not used those resources as best I could. And that's just ultimately what got me through the first big hump. And so my promise was I was going to use this litigation to steal Smooshy, and call me fucking crazy. Sorry. Call me crazy, man. But that's what the decision was. I was going to leverage this thing because everyone kept telling me it'll never go to court. It'll never go to court. So I'm like, I just got to take them to trial. Yeah. And then they'll have to give you a bunch of money. And I'm like, then I'll get the walruses. And there was a time my lawyer called me crazy. And then there was a time when he said, let's go get those walruses. And that's what we did. And so, we settled on the two walruses, Smooshy and her calf, who currently do not live together. They've been separated since birth. They can only hear and see each other. So it's quite a torturous existence, frankly. And I don't have to tell you just how awful the conditions are at Marineland. Anywhere is going to be a significant improvement. But we did get the detail that the Smooshy and her calf need to be moved to the same facility, an AZA accredited facility, within 6 months of our settlement, which was my birthday, March 21. So coming up in the next 4 months, I believe. Now that I've been told today that there are some crates that are rumored to be at Marineland now, and the move is I'm told to be imminent. I've been told by a very interesting source, and so I'm believing some activities will happen very soon on that front. But we also negotiated a reunion because I wanted to go back and see her for a number of reasons. So number one, I wanted to make sure she was healthy enough by my distinction to move. I wouldn't want to compromise her. And also I want to see her. I also wanted to walk back into Marineland looking like Conor McGregor, walking like this. I got to tell you, I went in there with some swagger, but ultimately they did mess with the reunion. It was not as per our settlement. No lawyers were there to be found for us to argue to make it right. It was very strategically pooched. I'm supposed to have pictures and videos, but there's none to be had because their 80s equipment that they'd set up at the back of the park was, the whole thing of it was a bit of a nightmare. And so now my lawyer and I are fighting to ultimately get the reunion done again. But frankly, that I can tell Marineland's looking to race that process and have the walruses moved. And listen, I'm not going to complain if that's the case. It is what it is. But frankly, the reason I'm emphasizing that I want a picture of our reunion, because I have to say it was, although it wasn't ideal because they kept us separate, it was a beautiful moment. The people who helped support and contribute towards this thing, they deserve to see that. And so I'm fighting for this resolution, not just for me and not just for the Walrus, but for the people who'd fought so voraciously to make this thing happen. But if it doesn't, then I'll get it done at the next facility. And, I don't know that I'll necessarily call it a day with Marineland, but I'm never going to be done with them, frankly. I'm looking forward. They've kept us married. The divorce is such that I still want the kids, be it the Dolphins, whales, everything else. I want them out. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
I'll tell you, people so back this way up. People have to understand, once you sue someone, you can't just walk away. Say, okay, fine. We drop our suit. Fine. That other party, the defendant or the other party, gets to ask for court costs. When something's gone on for court costs, and in certain jurisdictions and outside of Quebec, legal fees, which could be substantial. So Phil, you say, look, I've incurred $250,000 in legal fees. Just the court costs, stenographers, bailiffs, transcripts, etc. That's tens of thousands easily. And just because they discontinue doesn't mean that you get to be stuck holding that bag. So you could go after them for that. You just negotiate what you only wanted from the beginning. Smooshy and her kid to be put together, to be out of that facility in a quality facility. As part of the settlement, they say, we'll do that. You drop your claim for legal fees and court costs, and we'll give you the reunion. The reunion is supposed to be that beautiful moment where you see Smooshy after nearly a decade of being kept apart from a walrus that has imprinted on you. And instead of allowing it to be, I'd say, no holds barred or no ropes, have the media in there because they could have spun that for the best PR conceivable. They decide either by spite or by incompetence to have it be a dry, unconnected, a bad reunion that leaves everybody unhappy, that leaves them without what they could have used for good PR, and you want that back. But ultimately, they agree to move Smooshy by a certain date, and you think that's going to happen. So one victory. But I can't get over the stubbornness, the short-sightedness, the malice, or the incompetence that Marineland blew an opportunity that they had to get you in there for the reunion. All is forgotten. This was the moment. And you're going to go to court to try to make that happen because that's what you believe they promised you in the settlement, and that's what you wanted to get out of the settlement.
Well, it's necessary. I mean, look, I could just walk away right now and call myself satisfied. I mean, yes, I got to see her. Yes, she recognized me and tried to make her way to me. But the Marineland, their trainers pulled her away from me. That was never part of our settlement. They'd roped off a section that I was 15 feet further than I should have been to see her. I mean, she has awful eyesight. She's a walrus. The whole of it was absurdity. Yeah, they played with it. Any opportunity I have to stick it to them, I really have to take, because if I walk away with this, they've got some level of satisfaction in this, and frankly, I'm uncomfortable with it. It's deserved. It's owed. It's what I negotiated. I mean, look, I could have taken the $250,000, and the reality is, they would have been forced to move those walruses in due time. Anyways, we're working on legislation as we speak, the Jane Goodall Act, which would have eradicated walrus captivity and the performances in Canada. Anyways, I mean, we had sort of backdoor plans. I mean, look, this was a multifaceted attack. I've also noted that we passed a law over the course of this battle that banned whale, dolphin, and porpoise captivity in Canada. They can't be bred. They can't be imported. I mean, we really put a lot of thorns in marine land's side, but frankly, they did it to themselves. But this is just another example of that. So, more and more every day, I'm losing the hate that I had. The sort of, it's not the hate. I guess you'd call it the pride, or the thing that sort of kept me a thorn in their side. I just don't feel that as much anymore. Once she's removed from that space, and if they do it quickly, I'm going to be pretty happy. I don't know that I really want to deal with courts anymore, frankly. I don't love them, and I know the prospect of getting this reunion again is going to have to cost me $10,000 to $15,000, which I don't know that I could raise anymore. I mean, listen, I've did 10 years of this with momentum. I don't know that this can continue. So I don't know. I guess I could say I've been spoiled with the amount of litigation that this did buy, because not a lot of people get to actually turn into a threat in a litigation like this. I mean, frankly, I turned the tables on them. I had the best seat in the house. So the ride's been a good one. I don't mind wrapping it up with on a more positive, heart-filled note than worry about some of the petty shit that they're dealing with, that they put on.
If she gets out and you get your good reunion at the next facility, do you have any idea where she's supposed to go?
I have ideas. I have hopes. I certainly want her to go to Point Defiance Zoo in Tacoma, Washington. It's beautiful. They just got 2 walruses that were formerly at the Quebec Aquarium. I'd been negotiating long and hard for that place to happen. It's a nice climate. I've spoken with the trainers. They're great. It's display only. They're not going to be doing any shows. They get to live together. I mean, frankly, it's quite a dreamy space. There are a couple SeaWorlds. I have spoken to a trainer at SeaWorld San Diego. I don't really want to take up a war with SeaWorld. I don't love them. It's not going to feel like a great celebration if they go there. But, I should mention that in speaking with the trainer, he was a great guy. His heart's in the right place. They're not performing. It's display only. It's an Arctic display. She still gets to live with her baby, which, listen, you have to understand, with Smooshy, she suffered from separation anxiety from her original mother. She suffered from separation anxiety from me. She's currently suffering from separation anxiety from her baby. The very best thing for her to happen for her to become a walrus, to become a complete walrus, is to live with her baby, and ultimately to forget about me. So if this could happen and she could just live with her baby on it, I don't want her doing waves and shows anymore. But most of the facilities that I understand, the 5 facilities that she can go to in the U.S. That are AZA accredited, which was something I stipulated in the settlement. They ultimately get my thumbs up. I don't want to list a least favorite, because I need to become best friends with these facilities, whether we like it or not. So it is what it is. I'll roll in as fast as I can when she's there, and just to make sure she's got a smooth landing. And then that's it, man. I'm out of here.
Well, no, that's the next question. What are your plans going forward now?
Well, I'll tell you something. I've developed a niche skill of destroying captive facilities. I'm really effective. I've got a big voice now. The social medias are on fire. These days I'm flying helicopters over the Miami Seaquarium. As you know, that's why I was there. I hosted a protest on Thanksgiving weekend. Wonderful. I had the people from all over the place. I had people flying from Puerto Rico. I had an Australian there. I had some Canadians. Oh, it's wonderful. And so I'm having a time basically being a real thorn in facility sides. I intend on registering very soon my own not-for-profit. It's going to be a little bit of a rebellious C initiative. I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, I intend on doing some direct action and keep this thing going. And frankly, my favorite moment in life is hard negotiating for an animal's release. And frankly, I think that's what I want to do all over the place. There's a lot more animals that need to be released or at least brought to a improved facility, whatever it be. And so frankly, if I can bring a lot of noise and bring these animals alive and give them a name, then that's what I should be doing. So I intend to do exactly that. I'm back on Monday. I'm back in Miami. I don't want to reveal too much about what I'm doing.
Don't. And Phil, maybe we'll meet up again. I'll bring never. I was going to make it. I'll bring my GoPro.
Dude.
Phil, okay. Where can people find you? You're on Twitter, Walrus Whisperer?
Walrus Whisperer, Twitter, Walrus Whisperer, Instagram. Forget Facebook. I just hate it. But I know this is like awful too, but I've got a TikTok. I've no choice. I'm dominating. I'm having a time. I'm getting these millions and millions and millions of views, but it's working. It's raining terror on these facilities. So I have no choice. But over there, I'm called Urgent Seas, as in urgent SEAS. Otherwise, you can just put my name, Phil Demers, and you'll find me. But definitely follow me on all of those things and stay tuned, man. We're buckled in for a wild ride, even yet.
Awesome. Phil, text me when you're in Florida, and someone in the chat said, water your plant behind you.
Okay, we'll do it. I'm on it, baby.
All right.
Don't sue
Phil,
me.
Text me Monday. We'll meet up again.
We'll do. Okay.
All right. Awesome. Have a good one.
Cheers, my brother. Peace.
Yeah. Bye-bye. I'll tell you something. Light and day, not light and day. Light and dark, night and day. The difference, Phil, is at the end of the litigation, but technically settled, although he might not be happy with the execution of the settlement. But night and day, demeanor, physique, spirit, the stress of litigation is not something that anybody can understand until they've gone through. A year of it is too much. A decade is atrocious, especially for someone. All he ever wanted was to not steal Smushy, not free Smushy, have her go to a facility that would be better than where she was at. Okay, now hold on. There seems to be a lot of trolls. I say trolls. Let me see what's going on in the chat on the Rumbles. He has to use TikTok. No choice, says Molten Salt. Look, TikTok's not all bad. It's just 96% bad. Okay, well, those are our two guests today. I'm very happy they both came because we got updates, important updates, at the risk of people calling me whatever for actually treating Jeremy McKenzie like a human being. Call me whatever. Jeremy McKenzie is a human being. Humans are necessarily imperfect. What he's charged with and what he has done in the real world, I think, are wildly different. And the treatment that he's gotten, even as an accused, is atrocious in any free and democratic society. No, the show's not over, JC for Texas. Show's not over, people. We still got to cover the actual news. It'll be over soon. Oh, boy. The show is not... Oh, you got to play the troll, Sheeple Hunter. There's no walrus emoji. Everyone break shit, says First Amendment rights. Well, the show's not over. And in fact, I'd say the most important thing of the day. I have my pages in the back, my homework. Let's get away from the Canadian stuff for a second. I have to remember what I talked about in our locals exclusive and make sure that I don't think I've talked about it during a live stream. You all, this is parentheses, news story. I have found the social media warfare being used to wage the public opinion war for the war between Russia and Ukraine, to garner public support, to demonize dissenting thought and dissenting discourse. It has been scarily identical to the war against COVID, to gin up public sentiment, to support certain measures, to demonize any dissenting opinion, any questioning discourse. Yesterday, I saw this video. I'm not going to play the music actually, just because it doesn't matter. It's a video of put out from a blue checkmark government, Ukraine government organization of a soldier, but she clearly seems to be a professional trained dancer doing a TikTok video. This is setting aside any of my underlying opinions, assessments, point of views on the Russia-Ukraine war. It's much more nuanced than some people want it to be, because apparently it's black and white, cut and dry, no history that predates 2022. Setting all that aside, it's shocking. It is mutatis mutandis what was done to steer public opinion on COVID. And you'll recall, 7 pillars of marketing. I think it's 7 pillars of digital marketing. TikTok videos of doctors in hallways doing TikTok dances, doing synchronized dances about getting vaccinated. One element of washing the minds or washing the brains or brainwashing. In COVID, syringes in avatars, changing profile pictures to indicate public support for, demonizing any dissenting opinion. It was, you support these measures or you want Granny to die. In Ukraine, it is, you believe this narrative or you are a Putin shill. You are literally supporting Hitler. It was like a deep, dark awakening for me that, you know, it's never been any different except by degree. There is a literal, I'm going to sound like Alex Jones, there's a war going on and it's for your perception. And social media is the propaganda of old on absolute steroids. I said this yesterday. Holy crap. Red and white avatars being changed, the Ukraine flag in profile pictures, TikTok videos, syringes, face masks in profile pictures, TikTok videos. And then yesterday, sure enough, where is it? Zelensky, is this the one? Not now. Oh, no. Zelensky being, well, whatever, you've heard the news. Zelensky being named Person of the Year. And I didn't even know that this was the case. I only found this out during the Locals exclusive chat earlier today. Today, Zelensky is named Person of the Year. Person of the Year as the 6th or 7th, I don't know, whichever pillar of marketing we're on right now. And I didn't even know this. In 2021, Merriam-Webster has declared vaccine its 2021 word of the year. I mean, this is a strategy. It's a technique. It's an orchestrated effort at the level of government, media, influencers. And it is so perfectly identical, mutatis mutandis, it shocked even me. Peter Stokowski, editor-at-large for Dictionary, says lookups for the word increased 601% over 2020. They have a Person of the Year for Ukraine, Zelensky. They've got TikTok videos, avatars, profile pictures, dissenting opinions crushed. Word of the Year vaccines, syringes, masks and profile pictures, dissenting opinions crushed. If you're not all for, you are all against. There is no room for discourse. There is no room for understanding at a deeper level. There's no room for questions. Shut up, obey, and here are your sunglasses. Enjoy the day. That rhymes. And it's amazing. The media is the virus, says Maple Syrup 123, But it was like one of those like dark moments. Like, holy shit. Am I crazy for seeing this? Or am I the one who's crazy for thinking everybody has to be seeing this? It's like, I mean, it's always been this way. And both sides have always had the propaganda. The poster of the woman making a flexing arm. We can do this. Both sides have always had it. And some sides have done it more effectively than others. Now, for those of you who don't know, today, I met Rackets and Mrs. Rackets, and he met Viva and Mrs. Viva. Let me see this. Rackets was in Florida. I at the risk, I'm sure he disclosed why. You know, he's got an agreement with Rumble, and he did a live stream from headquarters yesterday. And we met up. We drove down to Miami this morning. Mr. and Mrs. Viva. Look at this. Mr. and Mrs. Rackets. Oh, this is in our locals community. Rackets is much taller than me. I have yet to meet anybody that I have known through the interwebs who's not taller than me. And it was fun. It's surreal meeting people who you've only known online and seeing them in person for the first time. You know that you know each other. You feel that you know each other, but there's just something fundamentally different of seeing someone in person for the first time. Rackets is in real life who he is on the interwebs. Quite fantastic. It was great. And congrats Rackets, and we'll do it again. Now, I hear a dog whining for dinner. See, I don't remember. I was talking about Pudge here, or was I talking about Pudge waking me up at 3 a.m. for food in locals? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The story that should enrage you, and if it doesn't enrage you, the question is going to be, what will it take to enrage you? Should I pull up the video of the ad? I'm not going to. You may recall just recently. No, I'm going to. Right after I read this super chat. Thomas X. Hatfield says, to put the New York Times Person of the Year into perspective, it's not necessarily a good thing. They had Hitler as a Person of the Year in 1938. Zelensky is not worse. That's okay. So put it into perspective. They had Putin as Person of the Year, I believe, in 2007. It is not necessarily a good thing, like someone who's been the best Person of the Year. They did have Hitler as Person of the Year. Who else did they have who were Person of the Year, not for good reasons? They have people who have influenced the world, people who have been instrumental in change, I guess for good or for bad in Hitler's case. People who have had an impact on the world. So it's not always an award. Holy Fact says H2O. I don't know what that means. And actually, let me just read. I know I screen grabbed many of the Rumble rants. There was one from Chet Chisholm. 2 important videos to watch: Dr. John Campbell covering the German myocarditis study, Chris Martenson, Peak Prosperity, discussing the fibrinogen clots and explaining the pathology behind them. Trudeau is the actor we have heard about. Medic Deb, $10 Rumble rant. And Chet Chisholm had another one. It says, both Chris and Dr. Campbell would make excellent guests on Rumble. Please do some coverage of the upcoming National Citizens Inquiry. Everybody out there, don't brigade him. Please ask John Campbell to come on the channel. It would not only be I'll do it on both. Or at least I'll do it on Rumble exclusively and then bring it over to YouTube. Enough of this. I mean, text John Campbell, say go on Viva for a sidebar, or have Viva on him. I do the live stuff. But all right, Medic Deb, that's it. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, who won the Nobel Peace Prize? Joker76 says, I remember Yasser Arafat winning it. That was the time. I remember Obama winning it. That was about the time you realized it's not it's questionable how Obama won it before drone bombing families and weddings and extrajudicial killings of American citizens. Bygones. Hold on. I almost forgot. I talk about sponsors. I don't talk about my own sponsor. People, we've got merch at vivafrei.com. I need to get me my anti-authority rhetoric shirts. I'm wearing the who, what, when, why, where. It always gets questions in public, but I need to get the anti-rhetoric t-shirt. If you go to vivafrei.com and you want something for Christmas, I like selling shirts because at the end of the day, everybody needs to wear a shirt and pants. Unless, do I have a joke? I don't want to be mean to anybody who was caught not wearing pants for whatever the reason on the interwebs. But I swear to you, I never go out wearing my Politics Ruins Everything shirt without somebody saying, I love that shirt. So true. I wonder if after they go to the website, Viva Frei, and see what I do, if they think I'm a lying hypocrite, or if they think politics has ruined me, or they understand why I say it, because politics ruins everything. Science, music, comedy, arts, sports. Heck, politics ruins politics. But I love it. When I wear that shirt, everybody always, or not everybody, at least somebody always comments on that shirt. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, everybody needs clothing. Okay, let's get to what's going to piss you off. And if it doesn't piss you off, you got problems. Simons is a Canadian clothing. I think it might even be only a Quebec clothing store, but it's Simons. It's got that little green logo. I used to pick up my suits there. Simons, all is beauty. Simons deciding to get into the social commentary, supporting euthanasia industry, because that's what corporations are supposed to do. I'm not playing the whole thing, and I'm going to turn the volume. Oh, here. This is a portion of the video, people. Let's make sure we're looking at the same thing, and we are. Listen to this.
Dying in a hospital is not what's natural. That's not what's soft. In these kind of moments, you need softness.
That's all we're watching because it's going to make me too angry. And I'll say it every time just so nobody misunderstands anything. I am not against euthanasia. I am not against people choosing to die with dignity. We are well past death with dignity for terminally ill people whose existence is nothing but misery and suffering for the short period of time that they have left on this earth. Period. Simon's is a goddamn clothing store. Made a 3-minute video to someone named Jennifer. And at first, when everyone's shitting on it, I'm saying, okay, I watched it. It's a 3-minute video. And I was like, I said, it cannot be that Simon has decided to foray into making pro-euthanasia videos. Not that you can have that opinion and applied properly. Few people should take issue with it. At first, when everyone's freaking out about this, I said, no, surely it's just Simon's agreeing to subsidize someone's dying wish. Someone wants to make their own video. They don't have the money. They don't have the means to do it. Simon says, here's a bursary. Here's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a subsidy. You know what I'm talking about. Here's a grant. Make the project yourself, Jennifer. It's, not everybody has 15, 20. That thing probably costs like a good $50,000 to make at least. Not everybody has that. Jennifer is presumably terminally ill, hence the request for medical assistance in dying, doesn't necessarily have the means or the ability to do it. I thought maybe Simon said, here's a grant, tell your story. Oh, no. Simon, we listened to the interview of the chief marketing officer, whoever it was from Simon's, explaining why they did it. They did this video. They said after the last 2 years of everything we've been through, they thought it was an important discussion to get into. Simon's, they made the video. 3 minutes. Jennifer had full creative control, I guess, or veto power. They showed her the product. She approved of it, and they went with it. Jennifer was euthanized. Jennifer was given the medical assistance in dying. Well, the National Post ran a story. When I first started talking about it, and I didn't know all the details, but I knew that it was no longer a case of Simon's grant, given a grant so Jennifer could produce this. It was Simon's themselves saying, we're doing this. It's our project. We think this, we want to get into this domain of politics, life, law, humanity. After everything everyone's been through over the last 2 years, we decide to glorify ending your own life. Someone said during that stream, and I remember it, Jennifer did not have a terminal illness. She had a disease, or a condition, which I couldn't identify. And I said, interesting. I can neither confirm nor deny that, and I don't want to be accused of spreading misinformation. Well, National Post just went and eliminated all doubt. I'll show you the article. We're not going to go through the whole article, but National Post confirmed that and more. Woman featured in pro-euthanasia commercial wanted to live, say friends. Quote, I'm feeling like I'm falling through the cracks. So if I'm not able to access health care, am I then able to access death care? Hatch said in a CTV interview. Jennifer Hatch, with a Y, just in case anybody wants to look it up and get the right one, 37, was the central figure of All Is Beauty, a 3-minute film produced by Simon's that celebrated Hatch's last days before seeking medically assisted death. That's the article. I'm just going to go to the highlighted sections, which I shared the screen grabs and the links. So sometimes I just feel like I'm going crazy, that I have to be misunderstanding the world, and I'm not, and it makes me sick. Feeling this is the headline here. Look at this. Last week, CTV confirmed that Hatch was the same woman who had spoken to them in June about her failed attempts to find proper treatment for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare and painful condition in which patients suffer from excessively fragile skin and connective tissues. She was seeking proper treatment for a very painful condition. And when she couldn't find that in the socialized healthcare system of Canada, well, the government offers you a very, very wonderful alternative, death. Hey, And it saves them millions of dollars as well. I feel like I'm falling through the cracks. So if I'm not able to access healthcare, am I then able to access death care? And that's what led me to look into MAID. Then I looked up the condition, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There are two types. Classical and hypermobility forms of Ehlers syndrome have a normal life expectancy. About 80% of patients with vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that's a different type, will experience a major health event by the age of 40, and their life expectancy is shortened with an average age of death of 48 years. I can't pretend to know the differences. I just know that the vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome results in thinning of arterial lining. And so basically injury can lead to bleeding to death, stroke, and all sorts of other premature deaths that shorten the life. Whereas classical or hypermobility forms, painful but normal life expectancy. She chose death because in Canada's socialized free healthcare for all, she couldn't get adequate healthcare to the point where she chose death. The woman featured was not only not suffering from a fatal illness, she wanted to live but couldn't get proper care. State-sanctioned murder. The blood is on Justin Trudeau's hands. It's not just a black pill. It's not a doom pill. It's not. The most shocking thing about all of this is the moving of the needle, the moving of the goalposts, and people who are not trolls, who seem to be humans with brains, justifying this and then justifying it to themselves. So I get into a bit of a back and forth with someone in my Twitter feed who has created a Twitter account to address my misrepresentations of Canadian law. And I know that I'm not supposed to engage with trolls, and sometimes you do it to, inform the general public by way of. People say, they're terminally ill. What do you have against it? It's like, first of all, this syndrome is not a terminal illness, period. It's a condition, not a terminal illness, to which these goalpost moving trolls with seemingly with very little respect for the sanctity of human life say, oh, it causes a shortened life expectancy. There's a difference between reduced life expectancy from a condition and a terminal illness. Do you know what else results in reduced life expectancy, shortened life expectancy? Diabetes, obesity, heart condition. Those are not terminal illnesses. One has a meaning and the other has a different meaning. But the idea now that there is a segment of the Canadian population that are being induced into believing that now what satisfies for medical assistance in dying, euthanasia, or other names, mercy killings once upon a time, what satisfies the criteria now is the inability of the system to provide adequate health care and reduced life expectancy. And this is how it's the slow degradation of humanity. I mean, it's enraging that people can now... The choice to die is an individual's choice. When the government has a vested interest in a specific outcome, as they do, by the way, because, hold on, life can only be understood backwards, yet it must be lived forwards. Oh, here's the Zelensky Person of the Year. Life can only be understood forwards. CBC, MAIDS, cost save millions. Look at this. I know I saw a recent study on this. Look at this. CBC, state-funded media. Canadian Pravda, medically assisted deaths could save millions in healthcare spending. Report. No judgment. No absolute outrage. Let's see. Across Canada, Journal calculates up to $136 million in savings. CBC, funded by the federal government. It's the federal government, whomever it has to be, but it happens to be, but it just happens to be liberal now. Over $1 billion, $1.2 billion tax dollar funding of CBC and Radio-Canada. New research suggests medical assisted dying could result in substantial savings. Oh, holy shit. Did I need research to tell me that killing someone is cheaper than letting them live and providing health care? Did I need research to that? Thank you, Captain Murderous Obvious. By the way, this is from January 23rd, 2017. I bet no one knew where this was really going to go at the time, except some people probably knew. Hey, new research says letting people kill themselves instead of treating them will save money for the government. And who rubber stamps the certification for the medical assistance in dying? The government that stands to benefit hundreds of millions of dollars by granting them the right to die. Doctor-assisted death could reduce annual healthcare spending across the country by between 34 million and 136, according to a report in the Canadian Medical Association. The savings exceedingly outweigh the estimated $1.5 to $14.8 million in direct costs associated with killing Canadians. The takeaway, quote, the takeaway point is that there may be some upfront costs with offering it, but there may also be a reduction in spending elsewhere in the system. Because you're not a human anymore under the Canadian healthcare system. You are a burden. You're a financial burden, and the government now has a vested interest in allowing you to eliminate your own financial burden from the system. And they decide when to approve it and when not to. The research, the thing that I'm shocked at, I want to make sure that end of life costs are high in Canada. Is there any rage in here? The report also emphasized that it is only a cost analysis and doesn't include the clinical effects on patients. Patient-level research will need to be done before true economic evaluation of medical. No outrage, no disgust, no. I'm sorry, government. Has the cost of human life and your inability to provide adequate health care, is that the motivation? To grant people the right to die, so you can say they can get killed now? None of that. And why would there be? You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. The fat little wild animal that once was the media, the lean, eager go-getter of a wild animal that the media used to be and ought to be, has now become a fat, gluttonous little pig, sucking at the teat of the government, not even questioning, not questioning, not getting outraged at the notion that the government would say, hey, if we expand euthanasia to the non-terminally ill, we could save a lot of money. Hey, if we expand it to the mentally ill, people who in law are incapable of consent in some circumstances, if we let them do it, we'll really save some money. Oh, hold on. If we expand it to children and minors, we'll really save some money. Geez, imagine ending the life of the earlier you end the life of someone, the more money you save off whatever healthcare would be required for them. And then you get these entities pressuring people with PTSD. Veterans calling to live, they suggest dying. People looking for adequate housing, can't get it? Have you thought about death? And it's happened. People with chemical sensitivities can't afford proper housing, choosing death, and the government authorizing it. Oh, but I'm the rage bait dude for raging against this dying of the night, dying of whatever it is. You don't know. If it doesn't shock you, you got problems. There's no words. It's state-sanctioned murder. It went from terminally ill, dying with dignity, to not even terminally ill with conditions that the system can't handle, to not even physically ill. And I don't say not even as in mental illness is any less debilitating than physical illness, but physical illness in the context of medical assistance in dying, euthanasia, or as it was once called, mercy killing. Physical illness is a lot easier to identify as a legitimate potential justification for euthanasia. Expand it to mental illness. Expand it to mental illness and minors. It's not a crime. It's a crime against humanity, but I guess it's more specifically a crime against Canadians. And it's cloaked. It's It's cloaked under the veil of benevolence, humanity, death with dignity, because the system that the government has set, the government system to treat the ill is so crappy, so fundamentally corrupt, wasteful, incapable of handling the seasonal flu. Hey, you know what would save us a lot of money? Let them kill themselves. Let me go to the chat and just see here. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's setting aside all of the other potential corruption that can occur. Organ harvesting, organ donation. Oh no, Viva, that's crazy. That's Alex Jones level conspiracy stuff. Once upon a time, allowing physically healthy but mentally ill people to choose to end their lives would have been Alex Jones conspiracy stuff. Once upon a time, letting people with chemical sensitivities, i.e. allergies, end their lives because they can't get affordable housing and the government can't do anything about it would have been conspiracy theory. It would have been the stuff of Soylent Green level science fiction. And shocker, it's reality now. Okay. Moving on, but don't forget. Okay. On the lighter note, on the lighter side of things, sarcasm translates very badly on Twitter. Dave Rubin tweets, Rubin report, upon return from New York, I have tested positive for COVID. Thankfully, by the way, I read this 3 times and didn't realize that he said unvaxxed. I'm so conditioned to the generic boilerplate NPC response. I didn't even read this properly the first 3 times. And I was like, oh my goodness, why is Dave writing this? Upon my return from New York, I have tested positive for COVID. Thankfully, I am unvaxxed and not boosted and only experiencing mild symptoms. I've taken the dog for a long walk already, and will exercise, eat right, and drink water throughout the day. And show will be live at 11 a.m. I got Dave's senses. I got Dave's here. Well, I know Dave's a funny guy and what he meant. So I write, it's obvious that your mild symptoms are only because so many other people stepped up and got vaccinated. Stepped up being the Justin Trudeau brainwashing catchphrase. Canadians have stepped up and gotten double vax, boosted, quadruple boosted, and then they stepped up even more by thanking the vaccine after they still got COVID. That's the worst, Justin Trudeau. The amount of people who didn't... I mean, I guess it's good because it shows that I've got a lot of new faces following my feed. The amount of people who didn't know that I was being clearly sarcastic. It's not a reflection of their intelligence at all. It is actually only a reflection of their newness to my Twitter feed to think that that would be something that I would say seriously. Because you know what the funny thing is? After I read it, I'm like, there are people who are going to argue this. There are people out there who would actually seriously argue this, that because so many other people got the jibby jab, that somehow it has affected the virulence of the strain. And that's what allowed it to mutate into a more mild version so that even the selfish bastards who are unvaccinated and unboosted, like Dave Rubin, reap the benefits of the stepping up of the vaccinated. Because that's how stupid some people can act. Not the people who believe them. That's how stupid the people could be who would actually raise that argument in an unironic manner. And you know what? I was going to put an LOL. I was going to put a winky face. I was going to put a /sarcasm. I did not think it was necessary. But it's good to know that there's a lot of new faces on my Twitter feed who actually thought that was serious. Welcome to the Viva Frei. Because on Twitter, some dude in Russia has Viva Frei, and I had to settle with the Viva Frei. I think now that about does it for what we had. I had an article about has this is from 2019. Has what country was it? What country was it? Denmark. I think it was. Has Denmark gone too far on euthanasia? Well. Canada, Justin Trudeau. Denmark, hold my beer. Hold my lethal injection. It's high pass gone too far. But okay, so we'll skip that. I don't think we need that. No, we're good. We did it. I have a good video to play us out, by the way. But before we do that, because this is local handcrafted art, and she doesn't just do it for us, it's brand new for us. Ziggy Shrugged, who's been around the community for a long time, fantastic, in as much as you can know people based on their consistent postings and social media. Ziggy Shrugged has a lot of handcrafted artwork, and she does the work for Eric Hunley, America's Untold Stories, Laid Back News, Christmas ornaments, people. I view Christmas as a non-religious holiday, so we might actually get a Christmas tree this year. Go to it's Creations by Ziggy, and you can actually get Christmas ornaments for the people who celebrate Christmas. And I believe there's also dreidels and that type of stuff for the people who celebrate Hanukkah. And I'm saying Hanukkah like that because of John Lovett. So Ziggy Shrugged, it's Creations by Ziggy for some absolute unique stuff that you will not see elsewhere because nobody else is doing it. Creations by Ziggy. And you can get a bunch of other stuff from other content creators as well for your Christmas trees, menorahs, and I don't know, if you just want Christmas balls or dreidels, like it's a little known fact that spinning the dreidel is a form of gambling. But it's equal gambling. There's only 4 options. The house never wins unless you're the parent and you take a cut of the gambling, which sometimes you do. But that cut is usually in chocolate and not actual money. Okay, everybody, we're done for the night. This was amazing. People are joining now. I feel bad. Now we're over 7,000 viewers, and I'm ending it. But you came just in time for a classic Play Us Out video back in the day when Viva was still wet behind the ears, not yet fully red-pilled, making quirky videos. When I make my Lex Friedman reply video tomorrow, I believe people are going to pee their pants laughing. Once upon a time, there was a Dear Casey video. Jack Conte of Patreon, when everyone thought Patreon was going to be the answer to censorship and has, since become the problem. Die a hero or live long enough to become the villain, as they say in Batman. Jack Conte made a Dear Casey video trying to get Casey Neistat's attention. I made a Dear Casey video parodying Jack Conte's Dear Casey video, and it was classic. So before I play this video to play us out, thank you all for being here. Snip, clip, share around, whatever you want. Go check out the yesterday's sidebar with Carl Benjamin was amazing. It had some moments, but go check that out. Sponsor, thank you very much. Home title lock for anybody who has property in America. VivaFrei.com for your merch. Better stuff than this. I'm getting the anti-authority rhetoric for Christmas. And Creations by Ziggy. Don't lose faith, but do not have blind faith, because nobody's going to make something happen if you don't make it happen for yourself. The idea of having so much faith that you sit down and say, it will come to me, that's not how things work. God helps those who help themselves. Just make sure to do it in a way that does not give anybody any excuses to justify the foregone conclusions to which they've already come, or the injustices that they think they're morally authorized to impose on others. Jeremy McKenzie, despite some stupid things that he said, despite some stupid things that he may have done, I have no idea about the other stuff. His Pierre Poilievre comment. None of us should be judged and executed for the dumbest or worst things we've ever done, to the extent that they've actually not hurt anybody. And none of us should be permanently judged and permanently banished for the worst things or the dumbest things we might have ever said. Nobody's perfect, period. Nobody should be forgiven for their crimes, or you should be forgiven for your crimes, but you should also have to repent and atone for your crime. All that to say, Jeremy has said some things that I wouldn't say. But there's nothing that justifies the treatment that he has been forced to endure. But even Jeremy, during the protest, said, do not give them an excuse. This guy who they're accusing of being a domestic terrorist, forming extremist groups, said, do not give them an excuse. Avoid problems. If you see something, report it, and do not let them have the excuse. That is my advice as well. Do not give them the excuse. Do not become the monster that you are battling, for when you stare into the abyss stares right back at you. Conduct yourselves in a way that would make your parents, your children, your pets proud. You can do no wrong, and do not expect things to change on their own. Awareness, pressure, and public mockery of the madness is the strategy that I have adopted. Now, with that said, everybody, let's get some cringe going, because it's cringe. See you tomorrow. What day is it today? It's Wednesday. Who do we have for tomorrow? I don't know what we have for tomorrow. I'll find out tonight. To play us out, pure cringe, and stay tuned for my Lex Friedman reply video. This is Dear Casey. Hi, Casey. This is Viva Frei. I'm a commercial litigator turned YouTuber, but this is not about YouTube and it's not about my channel. This is just between you and me, and, well, I guess my two kids in the background, between them two, and just between you, me, and my kids, and, well, okay, yeah, and one of my dogs, and, oh, yeah, that's right, this dog, also one of my other dogs. Just you, me, my kids, the dogs. Oh, yeah, wait, my neon tetra, and my wife. You, me, the kids, my dogs, one neon tetra, and my wife. There's one more kid, I don't know where she is. We're here in my studio on the weekend. My studio consists of kids' toys everywhere, boxes and boxes of kids' toys. Everything's a mess. I don't have an office of my own. This is our boardroom desk. Pretty much just kids' toys everywhere. Actually, I lied. I do have a studio. I clearly delineated it with the pink duct tape. We got our exercise room here and my actual office right here. Over here, I have my DVD collection and alphabetized. That's great. Got some hard drives over here. Hard drives over here. Hard drive. I got my old camera stuff over here. It's not possible. It's not possible!
Seriously?
Oh my gosh. All right, Casey, so jokes aside, I'm not going to be able to keep up with Jack Conti's editing skills. I'm on my iPhone. All I have are the generic noises that you have off iMovie. I'm not a CEO of a powerful company either. I'm also president of Viva Frei Productions, Inc., but this has nothing to do with any of that. I transitioned out of commercial litigation into full-time... Let's just get this done. Okay. I know it's... Is that a good diaper change? Okay, good. I am a retired commercial litigator turned YouTuber, viral videographer, content creator. I've always had questions that I wanted to ask you. I went to New York back in November and I went to see you, but when I got to your office, I read the sign and I respected the sign. I didn't want to disturb you then. I don't want to disturb you now. I don't need to meet with you. I mean, I want to meet with you, but no, it's not about meeting with you. There's a kid at the front door. I have just had questions that I've been dying to ask you, so I'm going to put it to you in a video format and hope that you answer them. This is the kid that you were missing from the earlier part and the neighbor's kids. Neighbor. So there's a lot of things I've picked up over the years and I've learned a lot from your vlogs, but I've had a bunch of questions I've always wanted to ask you. So I'm going to start now and maybe you can answer these in your next vlog.
And maybe we will go get some more chocolate sticks.
Question number 1. How many hours a night do you sleep? Seriously, how does the video editing process work? Yes? You better be saying cheese because you're not getting any more juice.
Can I have some more?
For people who are just starting, how do you go about generating any sort of revenue from your videos? I know there's affiliated marketing, sponsorships, and all sorts of things, but I'm just wondering how you went about it at the beginning before your videos started garnering millions and millions of views.
Can you stop that, please?
What were the ways that you actually used your video, your creativity to generate revenue? Anyone have any questions? We have a question here.
How do you sleep if you edit so much?
Good question. But I asked that one already.
Yeah, but you didn't. You have to.
After you've uploaded a video, is there anything you do to promote it to help it go viral or get traction, or do you just upload it and let your magic work its course? Don't look at me like I'm crazy.
I thought you were in our room.
Music. How do you get your music and how do you monetize your videos? Do people give you the music? I guess at this point of your career, anyone would love to give you their music so they'd be featured in your videos. But back in the day, did you just use copyright-free music? If people give you music, do you have some sort of royalty sharing with them if they give you good music for your videos? One more question here.
In your video, you said that you spent a lot of time with your family and your wife. How do you, if you make a video every day and you edit a video every day, is what you're saying true?
You asked that in a very accusatory, Oh, hey. Oh, hi, Mar.
Oh, hi, man.
Casey, do you have a question for Casey? What does Candace say and how does she feel about all your videos?
What's your favorite food?
How do you get such awesome drone footage and how do you fly your drone? Do you ask for permission? Do you take chances? Do you get the people in your videos to sign releases or do you ask them for permission or do you blur their faces out or not include their faces if you didn't get permission? Any more questions? Casey, can my daughter have a play date with your daughter? Next time we're in New York. Oh, hey, how you doing?
Have more children and dogs. Dogs.
How did you get so many subscribers?
Oh, he answered that question already.
He did?
Oh, yeah.
How?
Just keep uploading.
Peace
Yeah,
out.
but which video was so viral?
What are your views on MCN, multi-channel network thingies? Whether or not anyone should use them in order to grow their channel or just try to grow their channel themselves? You ready for bed?
Yeah.
Do you do any storyboarding for your daily vlogs or do you just go with whatever happens during the day or do you plan specific events out with the intent of including them in a vlog? You tired?
No, I want to watch video.
You want to watch a video? You want to watch a Casey Neistat video?
No.